World Economics HQ begins with a look back at a turbulent global landscape and a bold look ahead. As trade wars, technological disruption, and geopolitical risk reshape the world economy, understanding the big forces at play has never been more important. The year 2025 was dominated by Trump and his tariffs, and 2026 may well be the year China asserts even greater dominance over the global economy. More governments will hit debt limits. The AI bubble will continue to inflate rather than burst, and tensions around Taiwan will intensify. Hey, I'm Yuri. I hold a PhD in economics, and every year I publish 5 key megatrend predictions that I believe will shape the global economy in the year ahead. Last year, my predictions performed surprisingly well. I correctly anticipated that demographic decline would begin to seriously affect Europe, Japan, and China. That Trump's trade war would start more slowly than his rhetoric suggested, with aggressive tariff threats used primarily as negotiating tactics, and that Elon Musk's DOGE initiative would likely fail due to the complexity of U.S. politics. I also predicted a struggling global economy, difficult government choices on debt, and continued momentum in the green energy revolution. Looking back, these forecasts largely materialized. The global economy once again delivered a disappointing year, with especially weak growth in Europe and Japan. Governments from France to Brazil to the UK, countries I flagged as particularly vulnerable, faced mounting fiscal stress. While Trump's trade war rhetoric escalated quickly, actual tariffs were introduced more gradually, reinforcing the idea that much of the chaos was strategic. On the positive side, the green energy transition accelerated further. Electric vehicles, solar power, and wind turbines all remained on track for yet another record year in 2025. Ironically, the only prediction I truly got wrong was my expectation that most of my predictions would fail. That outcome forced me to reflect. Economists are notorious for poor forecasting, and I myself have argued that complex systems, like the weather, can only be predicted reliably a few days ahead. Even relatively small human systems, such as sports games, are famously difficult to forecast. So the idea that anyone can accurately predict the global economy a full year in advance seems, frankly, absurd. And in many cases, that skepticism is justified. Financial markets and major geopolitical events are often fundamentally unpredictable. However, large macro trends, such as globalization or deglobalization, are far more predictable, especially once they are already in motion. Those were precisely the types of trends I focused on last year, and they continue to reshape the world. This year, however, I'm taking more risks, particularly with my predictions about bubbles and Taiwan. But first, let's begin with a forecast I'm highly confident in. Prediction number 1. China will dominate more industries. China has already muscled its way into smartphones, shipbuilding, batteries, drones, and electric vehicles. In 2026, I expect it to challenge previously untouchable Western giants, including Elon Musk's SpaceX. When Tesla entered China in 2018, it was by far the most advanced EV company in the world. Today, it is playing catch-up with hundreds of Chinese competitors, such as Yangwang, Xiaomi, Zeekr, MG, and many others. In 2026, China's competitive pressure will extend even further into space, advanced semiconductors, biopharmaceuticals, chemicals, and industrial machinery. That means challenging NVIDIA in chips, Pfizer and Novo Nordisk in pharmaceuticals, BASF in chemicals, and the German Mittelstand in advanced manufacturing. China's rising dominance is one of the most predictable macro trends in the global economy. I assign this prediction an 80% probability. Importantly, I cannot say which specific sectors will tip next, only that more of them will. Much of China's success is a natural consequence of becoming wealthier. When Europe, Japan, and South Korea grew rich, they also began competing globally in advanced industries. What differentiates China is its state-driven industrial strategy. Through 5-year plans, Beijing heavily subsidizes targeted sectors, fosters intense competition, and then gradually withdraws support. Many firms fail, but the strongest survivors emerge as world-class champions. This model has delivered extraordinary results. China began heavily supporting shipbuilding in 2006. Today, it dominates the sector. In 2015, it targeted batteries, solar power, and electric vehicles. Today, it leads all three. That said, the strategy does not always succeed. Efforts to challenge Boeing and Airbus in commercial aviation have so far fallen short. So I'm not claiming China will dominate every industry, but I am confident that in 2026 it will dominate more of them. That dominance, however, will provoke a response. Prediction number 2. The trade war will broaden. Trump's tariffs in 2025 were already a response to Chinese subsidies. Since then, countries around the world have followed suit. Brazil imposed steel tariffs. Mexico targeted cars and goods, and the Netherlands nationalized a Chinese-owned chipmaker. In 2026, I expect this trend to continue for 2 reasons. First, China's manufacturing prowess is rooted in government support, which many advanced economies view as unfair competition. Second, China is breaking the traditional Asian flying geese growth model. Historically, as countries grew richer, they moved up the value chain and outsourced low-wage manufacturing to poorer neighbors. China is no longer doing that. Instead, it is pursuing self-reliance through automation, keeping even simple manufacturing at home despite rising wages. As a result, China now threatens industries in both advanced and developing economies. That is why I expect more tariffs, restrictions, and defensive policies, not only against China, but between many countries. This aligns with predictions from the field of geoeconomics. As the world shifts from unipolar to multipolar power, nations increasingly weaponize trade, sanctions, and economic pressure. That said, I assign this forecast only a 60% probability, because megatrends can experience temporary reversals. After an exceptionally tariff-heavy 2025, 2026 could see a brief correction. Prediction number 3. Government debt will become a binding constraint. This is largely a continuation of last year's forecast. Aging populations, rising interest rates, and political resistance to pension reform are pushing public debt to historic extremes. In many advanced economies, debt-to-GDP ratios are now higher than during World War I, levels last seen in the Napoleonic era. Countries like France and the UK adjusted spending plans last year, but failed to address the root problem: unsustainably high pension costs. As electorates age, meaningful reform becomes increasingly difficult in democratic systems. I assign this prediction an 85% probability. Several high-debt, aging countries will again face stark choices: fiscal austerity, inflation, or currency depreciation, much like Japan. Prediction number 4. The AI bubble will not burst yet. Yes, massive sums continue to pour into AI. Yes, there are clear parallels to the dot-com bubble. And yes, many valuations are difficult to justify based on future earnings alone. However, today's AI sector differs from the internet boom of 2001 in 2 key ways. First, companies like OpenAI already have unprecedented user adoption, more than double Netflix's user base. Second, earnings among major winners, particularly Nvidia, already support high valuations. There are real risks, including interdependent financing among AI firms. But bubbles can persist far longer than expected. I estimate a low probability of a crash in 2026, making this my most likely non-event prediction. Prediction number 5. China will quarantine or blockade Taiwan. This is my riskiest and most consequential forecast. While China may not yet be capable of a full invasion, many experts believe it could enforce a naval or air quarantine almost immediately. Under international law, a blockade is an act of war. But Taiwan's ambiguous legal status complicates the response. A blockade would cripple Taiwan's economy within weeks and could easily escalate into open conflict. Recent military exercises, naval expansion, and shifting geopolitical conditions suggest preparation is already underway. I assign this scenario a 25% probability, low but too impactful to ignore. The global consequences would be severe, especially given Western dependence on China for rare earths, critical minerals, and manufacturing. In fact, the costs could be so high that some governments might choose not to intervene at all. Last year, I focused on safer predictions and got them right. This year, my goal is different. To help you think critically about what could matter most in 2026, even if the probabilities are uncomfortable. Did I succeed? Did this give you a clearer picture of the risks and forces shaping the year ahead? If so, I have a perfect follow-up. Check out The World Ahead 2026 by The Economist, our sponsor for this video. It features 10 key trends, a global events calendar, and forecasts from elite super predictors. World Economics HQ viewers can get 35% off an annual subscription, giving you full access to The Economist's daily global reporting. Independent journalism for independent thinkers. Don't miss out. Follow the link and stay ahead of 2026.